For months, there was only silence in deep space. Voyager 1, the farthest human-made object to have ever traveled into the distance beyond the Earth, had wandered out of communication in any real sense. The signals it sent were garbled, meaningless, nothing but electronic noise swept away in the immense, dark sea of interstellar space. There were such echoes as bounce off unseen walls, patterns without purpose. For years, though, many thought the aging spacecraft, now more than 4 decades into its journey, had finally fallen victim to time and the emptiness of space. It had survived all expectations, but maybe now, after 45 years of unyielding persistence, its mission had come to a peaceful and unnoticeable end. Then, out of the blue, everything shifted. A legible signal reappeared. Not only could it be read, it was intelligible, coherent, and impossible to ignore. In place of the random static previously, this new data stream had a shocking organization, as if attempting to convey something greater than mere environmental data. It was as if Voyager had breached some unseen line, one that it was never intended to reach, and was now reporting from a world beyond our comprehension. Information flowed back in understandable form, but what it said challenged existing models of physics and space. It contradicted beliefs long held about the nature of interstellar space, gravity, and even time itself. Experts were shocked by what they were witnessing and started reevaluating their models. They started rewriting equations to challenge paradigms. Among the numerous scientists scrutinizing the data, a Nobel Prize-winning physicist came forward with a blunt warning. This changes everything. What we're witnessing shouldn't be happening. It's like Voyager isn't in a space we're familiar with anymore. His words, though guarded, resounded throughout the world of science. What began as a fascinating anomaly had become a possible paradigm shift. There was a growing realization that Voyager may first not just be probing the universe, it may have entered a reality in which we have no template of knowledge. Voyager 1 was released in 1977, and it was a product of the era, built with 1970s tech and computing capabilities many times weaker than today's most basic smartphones. Its original plan was to only last for a few years, enough to pass by Jupiter and Saturn, enough to photograph, and enough to send back data from the outer solar system. Voyager, however, broke every constraint. Having conducted historic flybys of the gas giants, it employed their massive gravitational fields to launch itself outward at velocities never before reached by a man-made device. Its path was not arbitrary. It was precisely calculated. Because of a rare alignment of the planets that happens only every 176 years, the probe could take on what NASA referred to as the Grand Tour, visiting several outer planets in one mission. With every planet that it passed, Voyager picked up speed, breaking free of the sun's grasp and moving deeper into space. Decade after decade, it kept sending signals, much past what it was supposed to do. And now, Voyager 1 is more than 14 billion miles away from Earth, well beyond the heliopause, the limit at which the sun's solar wind no longer prevails and interstellar space takes over. It is, in all respects, a ghost ship sailing across a cosmic ocean. But unlike in previous misconceptions, this space is not barren. After months of transmitting faulty data, Voyager's instruments started recording unusual, repeatable phenomena. Plasma density readings peaked unpredictably. Magnetic fields curled and distorted in novel ways. The direction and strength of cosmic rays varied wildly. The data was not only unknown, it was new. These readings were incompatible with any known interstellar matter behavior. The more data scientists scrutinized, the more unsettling it became. Cosmic rays, which would usually travel in straight lines, seemed to be coming from random and conflicting directions. Magnetic lines, ordinarily aligned by galactic configurations, were also off-plumb, trembling as if being driven by an invisible force. Plasma waves were acting as if they were being controlled, modulated by a force nobody could recognize. It was as if Voyager had passed beyond an unseen boundary, not just the border of our solar system, but the edge of an area where the rules of physics that govern us were no longer in effect. Said one scientist bluntly, "It feels like Voyager has entered a space we didn't even know existed." And then came the gravitational anomalies. Now, while Voyager 1 was still going due east along its predicted path, it began to feel not so subtle, inexplicable deviations. Its motion was gently tugged by an invisible, unknown mass or force. These shifts were not haphazard, they followed a faint but detectable pattern. There were no stars nearby pulling gravitationally. No impacts with hidden wreckage. But its path, though generally intact, displayed forces we couldn't explain. These minor irregularities fueled hot debate. Was Voyager drifting into an area of fluctuating gravity? Or had it flown past a mass undetectable by any telescope or sensor? A fringe theory, which won more currency by the day, suggested that Voyager had crossed into a liminal space, a sort of cosmic in-between place between the familiar universe and a larger hidden reality. Such so-called transitional space might not be subject to the same rules as the space we know. It could be an interface to dimensions, or even the surface of a simulated reality, a sort of cosmic edge programmatically established by rules we're only starting to perceive. This isn't science fiction any longer. These concepts are now being debated in peer-reviewed journals and reputable scientific conferences. Something is out there. The enigma grew when Voyager's sensors started picking up a recurring signal, a rhythmic, oscillating fluctuation in the background radiation. It was not noise. The signal had precise timing, organized repetition, and intentional modulation. Engineers originally thought it was interference or internal resonance. But the pattern persisted over time, independent of resets, power cycles, or sunspot activity. It was not a pulsar. It was not a quasar. It was not any recognized astronomical object. And then came the absolutely spine-tingling revelation. The signal seemed to shift after Voyager sent data bursts, as if it were responding. As if something out there was hearing. One of the engineers involved in the data visualization took Voyager's magnetic field logs and recreated them as a 3D time-lapse model. What appeared was breathtaking, a spiral lattice, a symmetrical, beautiful pattern repeating with mathematical accuracy. It seemed less like a natural occurrence and more like a signature. Some speculated that it could be some gravitational echo from dark matter filaments. Others proposed some more radical ideas, that the lattice might be an artificial construct of some sort, a kind of navigational scaffold created by an advanced intelligence, or perhaps by the universe itself, acting like a conscious system. Even Voyager's onboard system started acting strangely. Orientation sensors started reporting contradictory readings, as if the spacecraft existed in multiple spatial orientations at the same time. Telemetry records had timestamps varying by tiny fractions of a second, yes, but enough to imply a distorting of time flow. Something was affecting Voyager's measurement of spacetime itself. When reanalyzed using sophisticated quantum algorithms, signal data showed tiny differences in the speed of Voyager's signals. The signal was being compressed and expanded, perhaps through gravitational lensing, but in a pattern that didn't match any known mass or object. This hinted at one of the most extreme ideas to date, that Voyager had crossed into a realm where dimensions themselves fluctuate, where time, space, and gravity respond in nonlinear fashion. Did Voyager blow into a pocket universe? A bubble of higher-dimensional space contained within our own? Such speculations used to be the province of untestable physics, but now we've got empirical evidence that defies any explanation within a current theory. It all, these anomalies, distortions, and reactions, seems to point toward one single, creepy truth: Voyager is no longer alone. It takes with it the golden record, a message from humanity to the universe, music, salutations in 55 languages, and illustrations of human form. But suppose Voyager not just dispatched a message, but received one as well? If this recurring signal is not an anomaly, if it is a message, then what lies beyond it? Something old? Something observing? Something patient? Voyager was never intended to travel so far. It was never constructed to test the boundary of dimensional stability, or to challenge the notion that space is perhaps not empty. And yet, there it is. Still broadcasting. Still uncovering. Still rewriting all we ever knew. Its travels no longer seem like exploration per se, it seems like an encounter. We find ourselves now at the boundary of understanding. Maybe Voyager has not only found the boundary of the solar system, but the boundary of the simulation. The boundary of the veil of dimensions. Or maybe the gateway to a web of intelligence that spans galaxies, wrapped in the fabrics of dark energy, speaking in gravity, magnetism, and light. Whatever the answer, one thing is for sure, the universe is stranger than we ever knew. And Voyager, this tiny piece of human hubris from the 1970s, might be the first to rattle on the door of that larger reality. Now, therefore, we have to ask, has Voyager crossed the boundaries of our dimension? Or is this the first indication that we were never alone at all? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe for more deep space revelations, and turn on notifications, because the next transmission from Voyager might just be the message we've been waiting to hear since the beginning of time.